At work, I helped my colleague, and he told everyone about my parents won't talk to me. I got $8,000 in total, and my husband took everything. Hi, I'm Sarah 28F, and I never imagined that a simple walk home from work could change my life in an instant. But that's exactly what happened one stormy night, 2 years before I met Michael. I had just finished my shift at the restaurant and was making my way back to my small apartment, which was only a few blocks away. The rain was coming down in sheets, and I could barely see a few feet ahead of me. The streets were nearly deserted, the only sounds being the splashing of my footsteps and the distant rumble of thunder. I had always prided myself on being cautious, aware of my surroundings, especially in the city where I lived. But that night, the storm seemed to wrap everything in a cloak of eerie silence, making it easy to miss the subtle signs that something was wrong. I turned a corner onto a narrow alley that served as a shortcut to my apartment. I had walked this route countless times without incident, but tonight, as I stepped into the alley, a chill ran down my spine. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and I instinctively quickened my pace. The sound of footsteps behind me grew louder, but I told myself it was just someone else trying to escape the rain. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in the back of my head, and everything went dark. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on the cold, wet pavement, my head throbbing. My vision was blurry, and it took me a moment to realize that my hands were bound behind my back with what felt like rough rope. I tried to scream, but my voice was muffled by a gag in my mouth. Panic surged through me as I struggled to sit up, my heart pounding in my chest. Through the haze of fear and confusion, I saw two shadowy figures standing a few feet away, their faces obscured by the darkness. They were talking in low voices, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. All I knew was that I was in serious danger, and I had no idea how to escape. One of the figures noticed that I was awake and approached me. My breath caught in my throat as I saw the glint of a knife in his hand. He knelt beside me, his face still hidden, and brought the blade to my cheek, pressing it lightly against my skin. The cold metal sent a shiver down my spine. "Don't make a sound," he whispered, his voice low and menacing. Terror gripped me, and I froze, unable to move or speak. The man with the knife leaned closer, his breath hot against my ear. "We're not going to hurt you if you cooperate," he said. "Do you understand?" I nodded frantically, tears streaming down my face. My mind raced, trying to figure out what they wanted. Was this a robbery? A kidnapping? The possibilities were endless, each more terrifying than the last. The man with the knife stood up and turned to the other figure, who handed him a small, black duffel bag. He unzipped it and pulled out a thick wad of cash, tossing it at my feet. "This is for you," he said, his tone flat and emotionless. "Consider it payment for your silence." I stared at the money in disbelief. What were they paying me for? What had they done that was so terrible that they felt the need to buy my silence? The other man stepped forward, finally revealing his face as he pulled back the hood of his jacket. I gasped as I recognized him. It was Eric, my former boss at the restaurant. He had been fired a few months ago for embezzling company funds, and I hadn't seen or heard from him since. But now, here he was involved in something far more sinister. Eric's eyes were cold and calculating as he looked down at me. "You're going to take this money, Sarah, and you're going to forget this ever happened," he said, his voice calm but deadly serious. "If you breathe a word of this to anyone, we'll find you. And next time, you won't be so lucky." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man who had once been my mentor, who had taught me everything I knew about the restaurant business, was now threatening my life. My mind raced as I tried to process the situation. What had he gotten himself into? And why was I being dragged into it? But I knew that I had no choice. These men were dangerous, and they had already shown that they weren't afraid to use violence to get what they wanted. I had to play along, at least until I could figure out a way to escape. Eric knelt down beside me and untied my hands, removing the gag from my mouth. I coughed and gasped for air, my throat dry and raw. He pressed the money into my hands, his grip firm and unyielding. "Remember, Sarah," he said, his voice cold and emotionless. "This never happened." With that, he and the other man turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving me alone in the alley with the money clutched in my trembling hands. I sat there for what felt like hours, too terrified to move, until finally the rain began to let up and I forced myself to stand. I stumbled back to my apartment, my mind reeling from what had just happened. I didn't sleep that night, haunted by the memory of the knife against my cheek and the cold, calculating look in Eric's eyes. I knew I had to make a choice. Take the money and keep my mouth shut, or risk everything to find out what Eric and his accomplice were hiding. In the end, I did what I thought was the safest option. I took the money, and I never spoke of that night to anyone. But the fear never left me. It lingered in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of the danger that still lurked in the shadows. 2 years later, when I met Michael, I thought I had finally found peace. But as our relationship deepened, I couldn't help but wonder if the past would come back to haunt me. Every time I looked over my shoulder, every time I heard a strange noise in the night, I feared that Eric might return to make good on his threat. And so, as I walked into the next chapter of my life with Michael, I carried the weight of that terrifying night with me, knowing that some secrets are too dangerous to keep, but even more dangerous to reveal. We've been friends for almost 9 years and in love for over 5. Michael is everything I've ever dreamed of in a partner: caring, attractive, and financially secure, with a solid income from his career. He's been working hard since he was 17 and has no regrets about it. He's a real man who enjoys putting in the effort to provide for a family. Michael grew up near the mountains, while I'm originally from a bustling city. We got married 3 years after meeting, just 2 months after our first romantic experience. At the age of 20, my parents were very supportive, but his family wasn't thrilled about our relationship at first. They accused me of trapping him into marriage, even though I was pure and had no children. I still struggle to understand how they could see it that way. I've been working hard as well, starting in a restaurant when I was 18. On the other hand, Michael had been in one previous relationship that he admitted to, though there might have been another. It's puzzling why they blame me for anything, but despite the initial tension and resentment, his family eventually welcomed me, and we all found joy in each other's company. Michael and I have been married and in love for nearly 5 years, and we're all very content. I take care of the cooking and cleaning for him, and am eager to meet his needs in every way. I never say no, and we both find immense happiness together. He is my ultimate desire, and I wouldn't ask for anything more. But here's where things get complicated. I've been working with a man named Adam at the restaurant since the very beginning. Adam, who is 34, handles maintenance and cleaning for the place. Let me be clear. I have absolutely no romantic feelings or attraction toward Adam. He's just a kind person who's been through a lot. He has a wife who cheated on him and left, taking his son with her. A paternity test revealed that the boy wasn't biologically his, exposing the affair and revealing another man as the father. Adam, who is not only my friend, but also well-liked by all our colleagues, was devastated by this. He even took time off work, something he hadn't done in his 15 years at the restaurant, where he had never missed a single day until this crisis. I was deeply concerned about my friend, so I began talking to him more often and insisted that we have lunch together every day, along with other colleagues, either in the break room or outside in the fresh air and sunlight. Adam feels like he's lost his manhood because of what his estranged wife did. He believes no woman will ever want him again, which causes him immense pain. I told Adam that wasn't true at all. I genuinely believe any woman would be lucky to have him as her partner. He's kind, gentle, a good provider, and a loving father to his son. I'll share more about that part of the story later. As I spent more time talking with Adam over the following weeks, an idea began to form. I thought I could help him regain his sense of manhood while also exploring something new for myself. A relationship with another man, something I'd never done before, except with my beloved Michael. This would help me resolve that lingering question in my mind. I then planned when to talk to Michael about my idea and seek his approval. After dinner one evening, when we had cleaned up, I sat down with Michael to discuss it. I shared my thoughts and suggestions with him, and his initial reaction was to burst out laughing, giving me a wild, incredulous look. He thought I was joking, but I assured him I wasn't and explained why I thought this could be a perfect solution for both Adam and me. I emphasized that he had nothing to worry about with Adam, as I had no romantic interest in him. Michael became quite angry and stormed off, slamming the bedroom door. However, he didn't lock the door, and I knew what he wanted. To show my love and commitment, I took off all my clothes and went into the bedroom. He can never resist me, just as I can never resist him, even after 5 long years. I gave him everything he loves, and we fell asleep together, happy and in love, just as we always are. I waited a day before bringing up my suggestion to Michael again. I asked him if he had thought about it and whether he'd give me his blessing. He firmly said no and warned that if I went ahead with it, he would file for divorce and cut off all communication with me. I acknowledged his stance with an okay and sat beside him to watch a movie. Eventually, I offered him a treat, and we spent the night together on the couch, still deeply in love. During this time, I noticed that Michael was distant and preoccupied with something other than our intimate moments or the meals I prepared. He often talked on the phone outside our apartment or in a hushed tone in the spare room, raising my suspicions. But there was nothing obvious. Days passed, and it was now Wednesday. After attending church services, Michael was planning to drive to the mountains for a 5-day trip with his family. They had an annual tradition of hiking during this time, which I didn't mind. I understood that he needed his time with the guys to maintain his strength and manly qualities. Before he left for his trip, I brought up my suggestion once more. Michael seemed frustrated but said, "Sarah, you're an adult, and I can't force you to do anything. If you want to be with another man, I can't stop you. But I've already told you how I feel about this." I hugged him, kissed him, and thanked him for his understanding, but he gave me a strange look before getting in his car and driving away. Before he left, he advised me to remember what he had told me. I expressed my love for him and continued sending affectionate texts and messages that night. The next day, during lunch, I met with Adam and shared my idea with him. He was completely taken aback and hadn't seen it coming. He initially refused, saying he couldn't have a relationship with a married woman. I explained that my husband didn't agree but allowed it, and this was something I wanted. Adam thought about it all Thursday night, unable to sleep, and when we met on Friday, he agreed to it on the condition that both my husband and I were comfortable with it, emphasizing that it would be purely physical with no emotional involvement. I assured him that I had no desire for him whatsoever. He was a nice guy, but I didn't find him attractive in any way. So on Friday night, I went to Adam's place. It was a cozy little house, and we had the encounter using protection. There was no kissing or anything intimate, just the physical act itself. It seemed to satisfy Adam quickly. For me, it was simply about satisfying my curiosity. It wasn't a memorable experience, and it didn't mean anything to me beyond that. That evening, I sent a text to my beloved Michael, letting him know that everything had gone smoothly. I assured him that Adam's confidence had been restored and that I had found the answer to my question. I emphasized that I would never be with another man, only him, my love, Michael. It's important to understand that this was purely a physical encounter with protection, and there was no emotional connection or love involved, unlike the intimate moments I share with Michael. Let me make this clear for everyone out there. I chose to text Michael because I was worried about how he would react. He didn't respond that night, and I spent a sleepless night filled with anxiety. Thankfully, the next morning he texted back, saying he would be coming home on Monday instead of Sunday. While I didn't like the idea of him being away for an extra day, I appreciated his understanding regarding the encounter and was grateful to have his love. The following day, Adam and I had lunch together, and he thanked me for the session, for helping him regain his confidence and sense of self. He also shared that he had been granted 50% custody of his son through the courts, despite not being the biological father. I celebrated this news with him and explained that now that our purpose had been fulfilled, there was no need to continue meeting individually for lunch or other gatherings. He thanked me, understood, and assured me that he wasn't a deceitful person. During this time, I continued to send loving texts and intimate photos of myself to my dear Michael, but his phone reception on the mountain was poor, so his responses were infrequent. He mainly expressed how much he was looking forward to seeing me on Monday. I was filled with excitement and love, eagerly awaiting his return. But unfortunately, this story takes a painful turn. On Sunday, after a long day at work and shopping for Michael's favorite foods, I returned home to a shocking sight. My apartment was empty, and divorce papers were on the counter, along with a note. The note read, I thank you and wish you good luck and success with Adam. Signed by my beloved husband, Michael. I was overwhelmed with tears and disbelief, knowing this decision wasn't his own, but influenced by his family's disapproval of me. Michael would never willingly do something like this. He had taken all the furniture, silverware, cups, glasses, and linens, leaving only a single set. Our king-size bed was replaced with a small twin bed, seemingly from his nephew's room. He left me with a small TV and a chair. Additionally, he took all the kitchen appliances but left me with just a saucepan and a frying pan. He even provided paper plates, plastic utensils, paper cups, and basic necessities like toilet paper and paper towels. My only remaining possessions were my clothes, toiletries, and makeup. I tried calling Michael, but I discovered he had blocked my number. When I reached out to his mother and sister, I found that they had blocked me too. The same was true for his father and brother. It became clear that Michael had been consulting with an attorney during those times when he was away or in the spare room. It seemed like he had initiated this process shortly after I shared my suggestion, which felt like a betrayal. I can't believe this is happening. I then read the letter included in the divorce papers, which instructed me to communicate through the attorney and not contact my husband directly. This brought me to tears. At the end of the day, I decided to call the attorney to understand what was happening and how I would survive. I explained that I couldn't afford to pay for the apartment on my own. The attorney informed me that Michael had paid the lease, including basic utilities, for the remaining 2 months of our lease, but I would have to manage expenses for video service, internet, and phone on my own. The attorney also mentioned that when the lease expired, Michael had terminated it. If I wanted to stay, I would need to renew it with the landlord. I'm left wondering how I can manage to stay when I can barely afford it. Is this how a man treats the love of his life? A woman who gave him everything, from love in various forms to cooking, cleaning, and running all the errands? Michael always had to ask, and he would get whatever he wanted. Now I'm on my own. I couldn't sleep that night, and the following day I decided to visit Michael at his job site. I was informed that he had taken on a job by the mountains and specifically requested to work in that area. He's a skilled concrete worker, one of the best, especially for someone so young. I asked the foreman to let him know I was there and that I loved him, and he said he would pass on the message. I'm overwhelmed with grief. It's truly unbearable, like experiencing a death and loss. I confided in a friend and coworker about everything, and she couldn't believe my actions. What? She's the one who initially suggested the idea. When I questioned her about it, she said, "Yes, I mentioned it, but I never thought you'd actually go through with it. It was just crazy girl talk." The following day, I took a bus to the mountain town, as I don't drive. I went to my in-laws' home, and although I wasn't exactly welcomed, they allowed me inside and prepared a meal and coffee for me. I explained the misunderstanding and how I love Michael deeply and eternally. They were kind, but Michael's mother told me that he doesn't want to see me again and suggested it would be best if I never contacted him. I expressed my inability to do that because he is my entire world. Michael was working 110 miles away, and his family didn't welcome me to stay with them, so I had to take the bus back to my empty apartment. I cried the entire journey and continued crying all night. I even had to take some time off from work the next day to collect myself. Now I need your help with my question. How can I regain my husband's love and mend this misunderstanding? Please, I'm not looking for judgment or criticism, as I've already received plenty of that in a previous post without any helpful suggestions or actions. All I'm seeking are practical steps to win back my man, the love of my life, because I can't continue like this. Your assistance is greatly appreciated. Update 1. Let me address some questions from this group. Yes, I believe in God and the sanctity of marriage. Do you? No, I was not unfaithful to my loving husband, and I would never engage in such behavior. It's quite audacious to even suggest that. Yes, I do consider myself a good girl. How many 23-year-old women do you know who have only been with one man and had just one other physical session? I can answer that for you. None, unless they're nuns. No, I have no intention of having any kind of relationship with Adam beyond being coworkers. There's no attraction or desire there. What I did for him came from the kindness of my heart. I take pride in helping him, and it's ultimately up to God to judge me Not any of you. No, I will never be with another man in the future. Perhaps you should ask these questions to your own significant other. Why not? Because you don't want to hear the truth? No, I didn't diminish or disrespect Michael. You haven't met my husband, so you can't judge his masculinity. I know he's more of a man than anyone here. No, I haven't disclosed the situation to my parents or other family members, but I'm confident they would be proud of their daughter for doing what's right and selflessly helping people. No, I have no interest in engaging in physical sessions with any other individuals in this group. Many of you seem to have bitter attitudes. Update 2. Well, I have to provide another update, and it's quite an unfortunate situation. It's been 6 weeks since I've been without my husband, and I feel utterly empty and heartbroken. I've made every effort to contact him, but there's been no response. I've even resorted to calling him from other people's phones and leaving heartfelt messages. But it seems he's screening his calls and has never returned any of them, despite my pouring my heart out to him. I went as far as having Adam call Michael and leave him a message expressing gratitude for his act of kindness and how it saved Adam from a life of misery. Adam told Michael that he sees him as a great man and will forever be indebted to him for his actions, emphasizing that there's no love or interest between me and Sarah. We're just colleagues. However, Michael hasn't responded to any of this. I decided to confide in my parents and brother about my divorce, but their reaction was far from what I anticipated. They're very angry with me and can't see the good deed I did, only focusing on the perceived infidelity. No matter how much I try to convince them that it wasn't cheating but a selfless act, they remain unconvinced and express disgust towards me. They've even suggested I go to confession every day for the next year. I believe that in the end, it's up to God to judge me, not the people on this earth, including my own family. Final update. Okay, I wasn't planning on returning to this troublesome post, but some kind-hearted people have asked for an update, so here it is. I really wish I could block all those bitter individuals in the comments. Anyway, let me fill you in on my current situation. I'm now living at our community shelter because my lease expired, and I don't have the financial means to afford rent in the city. It's a decent place, but it's only a temporary solution. I could have stayed with my parents, but I chose not to since they don't understand my perspective. Now, about the divorce, it's official. It might just be the quickest divorce in our country's history, which seems to be my luck, but at least I have faith in God to support me. The judge seemed to be quite traditional and didn't have much regard for women in today's world. He viewed my suggestion as nothing more than cheating and disregarded the fact that I had helped Adam regain his life. He simply stated, "You can call it whatever you want, but it's cheating and a breach of your marriage." I tried to explain that my husband had given me permission, but when he asked my husband and his attorney, they both denied it, saying, "No, Your Honor, he did not." What Michael told Sarah was, "You're a grown woman, and I can't prevent you from doing anything." He then added that he had previously warned Sarah that he would divorce her if she went through with it. The judge turned to me, and I conferred with my legal representative, who confirmed, yes, Michael did tell Sarah this, and it's a truthful statement. The judge proceeded to ask, "So why did you proceed with your affair knowing this?" My legal representative and I were caught off guard and didn't respond. The judge then said that we didn't have to answer the question because it was irrelevant to the outcome. He then granted Michael the divorce, officially ending the marriage. As part of the ruling, he awarded me the equivalent of $8,000, which Michael was required to pay within 60 days. Can you believe all of this? Just $8,000 for 5 years of various forms of intimacy, cooking, cleaning, running errands, and taking care of this man when he was ill. If I had worked these jobs instead, it would have amounted to over $250,000. Do I believe I should have received $250,000 from Michael? No, I do not. However, receiving only $8,000? Come on, people, why aren't women valued more for their valuable contributions to marriage? Can the individuals in the comments section answer me that question? This is my last post here, because I won't continue arguing with the unkind individuals in the comment section. I'm simply drained, and you all are unpleasant people. Instead, I'm going to invest all my time and energy into winning Michael back over the next year. I left him a message on his phone, letting him know I won't go on any dates for at least a year, maybe even indefinitely, as I'll be patiently waiting for him to return. I told him he's welcome to come to my new apartment anytime for any type of affection and provided him with my new address. I believe that one day I'll hear a knock on my door, and there will be my Michael standing there, ready to embrace me with kisses. We'll then live our lives happily ever after, possibly with many children and daily affection. Happy holidays to everyone out there, and I extend God's best wishes to all, even those who dislike me and themselves. All right, that was quite a journey, but now let's move on to another story that's equally intense. This incident took place more than 7 years ago, and I'm still not fully healed emotionally. Back then, James, was 33 years old and my girlfriend, Ashley, was 31. We had been in a loving, committed relationship for 4 years, or at least I thought so. We met at a charity gala at a local museum. Ironically, neither of us was particularly interested in art, but we were both there with friends, and we instantly connected. We started dating casually and soon decided to commit exclusively to each other because our bond was undeniable. Around a year into our relationship, Ashley brought up the idea of moving in together, as she was eager to take things to the next level. I was hesitant at first, explaining that I wasn't quite ready for that step. So we continued living separately, but spent at least 5 nights a week together, and our love deepened over the next year. Ashley continued to gently push for us to move in together, and eventually, on our 3rd anniversary, I reluctantly agreed, and we moved in together. Everything seemed to be going well, and despite being together for over 3 years at that point, our intimacy remained vibrant and exciting. With our relationship going smoothly, Ashley began hinting about marriage and starting a family. I told her that I could see that future with her, but wanted to use this time living together to see if we were truly ready for that step. About 5 months after moving in together, I got a surprising call. Ashley called me at work to tell me she had missed her period and might be pregnant. This caught me off guard since she had been on birth control. She assured me she hadn't missed a single pill, so I assumed it must be the rare instance where birth control fails. After hanging up, I went through a whirlwind of emotions, from fear to excitement. But the more I thought about it, the more joy I felt about the idea of becoming a father. Driving home that evening, I was filled with anticipation, and when I got home, I hugged and kissed Ashley, sharing my excitement, which made her equally happy. As the weeks passed, Ashley started asking about our marriage plans. I told her I wasn't ready at the moment, but suggested we could consider it after the baby arrived. She understood, but kept bringing up the topic several times a week, expressing how much she wanted to be my wife and spend her life with me. Over the next few months, we focused on getting ready for the baby, turning our spare room into a beautiful nursery. I spared no expense on furniture and decorations, making sure we were fully prepared for the new arrival. Our lives were going so well that when Ashley was 8 months pregnant, I decided to propose. With a heartfelt proposal, I got down on one knee, and Ashley enthusiastically said, "Yes, yes, yes. I will marry you, James." We were both overjoyed. I suggested having a small ceremony at the courthouse the following month, with a reception after the baby was born, and she eagerly agreed. We set a wedding date, but just a few days before the ceremony, our baby had other plans, and Ashley went into labor. We rushed to the hospital in the early morning, and by noon, Ashley had given birth to a healthy baby boy. I was right there by her side, helping with the delivery. Though the birth went smoothly, I couldn't help but notice that the baby didn't look like me. He had dark brown hair and a warm olive complexion, looking as though he might be of Mediterranean descent. Both Ashley and I, along with our families, have light hair and fair skin, with Northern European backgrounds. There's no Mediterranean heritage in either of our families. When the baby was placed in Ashley's arms, I glanced at her face and saw that, despite her efforts to stay composed, she was just as shocked as I was by the baby's appearance. My heart was racing, but I managed to keep calm and pretend everything was normal. Ashley asked if I wanted to hold the baby, and I did. Tears welled up in my eyes as I cradled him, overwhelmed with sadness because I knew he wasn't biologically mine. Despite my emotions, I handed him back to Ashley and told her I was going out to share the news with our parents. I stepped out of the room and told them the baby had arrived. They all went in to see Ashley and the baby while I told them I needed some fresh air after all the excitement. I walked to a small garden by the hospital, where I broke down in tears, feeling like my world had just collapsed. I knew that day I would lose both my future wife and the child I had hoped for so much. I cried for what felt like hours, but was probably closer to 45 minutes. Then my phone rang. It was my mom. She asked if I was okay, and I replied, "I think so." She then said, "James, I understand why you left." I confided in her, "Mom, the baby isn't mine." She comforted me, saying, "Son, I know, and I'll stand by you no matter what." With that reassurance, I wiped away my tears, freshened up, and went back to the room. When I returned, only Ashley, her parents, and my mom were there. The baby had been taken to the nursery. Ashley was exhausted from the delivery. I suggested that we all let her rest, and as we left the room, Ashley asked if I could stay with her. I gently told her, "Sweetheart, it's best for you to rest now."